Imagine growing up in the rugged mountains of war-torn Dagestan, where survival isn't just about making a living, it's about being strong enough to fight for it. Where boys don't dream of being superheroes, they dream of being warriors. Magomed Ankalaev was one of those boys. From a struggling childhood to carrying his family's responsibility at a young age, to becoming the UFC Light Heavyweight Champion. This is the story of a fighter who refused to break. And today, we're telling his journey. Magomed Ankalaev's journey is a story of resilience, discipline, and unstoppable determination. From a poor boy in Dagestan to the UFC Light Heavyweight Champion, his story proves that hard work and perseverance can take you to the top. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more inspiring fighter stories, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Who should we cover next? Let us know in the comments. Early life in Dagestan, Russia. Magomed Ankalaev was born on June 2, 1992, in the small village of Teledol, located in the Shemilsky district of Dagestan, Russia. Growing up in Dagestan was never easy, especially for boys who had to become men at a very young age. The region is known for its tough environment, mountainous landscapes, harsh winters, and a way of life built on discipline and resilience. Dagestan has a deep history of producing world-class fighters. Wrestling, sambo, and combat sports are not just hobbies in this part of the world. They are a way of life. From a young age, boys are expected to train hard, push their limits, and develop the strength needed to succeed, not just in sports, but in life itself. For Ankalaev, this was no different. Growing up, he was surrounded by people who lived by a strict code of honor, discipline, and respect. The culture of Dagestan is deeply rooted in these values, and combat sports play a huge role in shaping young men. Parents encourage their sons to train in wrestling and other martial arts, believing that it teaches them strength, perseverance, and responsibility. Magomed's family was no exception, but despite the warrior culture of his homeland, Ankalaev's life took a turn that forced him to grow up even faster. While he was still in school, tragedy struck. He lost his father. Suddenly, the responsibility of the household fell on him. As the eldest son, he had no choice but to step up. In Dagestan, family comes first. The idea of giving up is never an option. Ankalaev had to balance his dreams with the duty of taking care of his mother, younger siblings, and ensuring that his family had everything they needed to survive. Even as a young boy, he understood that life wouldn't give him anything for free. If he wanted to succeed, he had to earn it. This mindset shaped him into the fighter he would later become. He spent his teenage years training, knowing that every drop of sweat, every moment of pain, and every sacrifice he made would bring him one step closer to a better future. At school, Ankalaev started training in Greco-Roman wrestling, one of the most physically demanding sports in the world. Wrestling wasn't just a sport for him. It was a way to channel his energy, his frustrations, and his emotions. In Dagestan, wrestlers are seen as warriors, and he wanted to prove that he had what it took to be among the best. But wrestling alone wasn't enough. As he grew older, he began to explore combat sambo, a Russian martial art that combines wrestling, judo, and striking techniques. He trained relentlessly, pushing his body and mind to their limits. His hard work paid off, and he earned the title of Master of Sports in Combat Sambo, a prestigious achievement in Russia. This was a turning point in his life. Combat sports had given him a purpose, a path forward. But deep inside, he knew that his journey was just beginning. He had a bigger dream, to compete at the highest level, to prove himself in the world's toughest fighting organization. Little did he know that one day, he would step into the UFC octagon and become a champion. The rise. With a strong foundation in Greco-Roman wrestling and combat sambo, Magomed Ankalaev had built himself into a well-rounded fighter. His dedication and discipline set him apart from many others training alongside him. But to truly test his abilities, he needed to compete professionally. In 2014, Ankalaev made his professional MMA debut. His early fights were a testament to his skill and dominance. He didn't just win. He dominated his opponents with superior grappling, powerful striking, and an unbreakable will. Every victory brought him closer to recognition, and soon, He became one of the most talked-about prospects in Russian MMA. His performances caught the attention of World Fighting Championship Akhmet, WFCA, a well-known promotion in Russia. He continued his dominance there, going on an impressive winning streak and capturing the WFCA Light Heavyweight Championship. Winning a title in such a competitive organization proved that Ankalaev was ready for the next big step, the UFC. In 2018, his dreams became reality. Ankalaev signed with the Ultimate Fighting Championship, the most prestigious MMA organization in the world. But the road to success was not easy. His debut fight was against Paul Craig, a dangerous submission specialist. Ankalaev controlled most of the fight and was seconds away from a dominant win. But in the very last second of the fight, Craig locked in a triangle choke, forcing Ankalaev to tap just before the final bell. It was a heartbreaking loss, one that could have shattered the confidence of any fighter. But Dagestani fighters are built differently. Instead of letting the loss define him, Ankalaev used it as motivation. He trained harder, sharpened his skills, and came back even stronger. Over the next few years, he went on a dominant winning streak, proving that he belonged among the best in the light heavyweight division. His style was a perfect mix of Dagestani wrestling and precise striking. Unlike some of his fellow Dagestani fighters, who relied mostly on grappling, Ankalaev had powerful kickboxing and knockout power, making him a dangerous opponent for anyone in the division. His calmness inside the octagon, combined with his ability to control fights, made him a nightmare for his opponents. One of his most important victories came against Ion Cutelaba, a fighter known for his aggression and knockout power. The two fought twice, and in both fights, Ankalaev showcased his striking abilities, knocking Cutelaba out in devastating fashion. These performances cemented his reputation as a serious title contender. As he continued his winning streak, he climbed up the UFC Light Heavyweight rankings, taking on tougher opponents and proving that he was ready for championship gold. All the years of sacrifice, the hardships of his childhood, and the endless hours in the gym had led him to this moment. And then, in 2025, the opportunity of a lifetime arrived. A shot at the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship against Alex Pereira, one of the most feared strikers in the world. This was the moment Ankalaev had been waiting for. He was no longer just a kid from Dagestan trying to make a name for himself. He was now one fight away from becoming a world champion. The decisive championship fight with Alex Pereira. The stage was set. Magomed Ankalaev had worked his entire life for this moment. A shot at the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship against Alex Pereira, one of the most feared strikers in the sport. Pereira, a former middleweight champion and elite kickboxer, was known for his devastating knockout power. But Ankalaev was different from Pereira's past opponents. He wasn't just a striker or a wrestler. He was a complete fighter. As the fight began, the tension was high. Pereira, as expected, started with his powerful leg kicks, trying to damage Ankalaev early. But Magomed remained calm. He had prepared for this. His footwork was sharp, his defense was solid, and he was waiting for the right moment to execute his game plan. Midway through the first round, Ankalaev started mixing things up. He landed clean counter-punches, using his reach and precision to disrupt Pereira's rhythm. But the real turning point came when Ankalaev shot for a takedown. His Dagestani wrestling was on full display as he took Pereira to the ground with ease. On the mat, it was a completely different fight. Ankalaev controlled Pereira, landing heavy ground-and-pound shots. Pereira, known for his striking, struggled to defend against Ankalaev's wrestling pressure. The champion was in trouble. Round after round, Ankalaev imposed his dominance. He didn't just wrestle. He outstruck Pereira on the feet as well. His patience and fight IQ were remarkable. Instead of rushing for a finish, he systematically broke Pereira down, draining his energy and taking away his power. By the fourth round, Pereira was exhausted. Ankalaev seized the moment. He secured a takedown, advanced to a dominant position, and unleashed a brutal series of punches and elbows. The referee had seen enough. He stepped in and stopped the fight. Magomed Ankalaev was now the UFC Light Heavyweight Champion. The victory was not just about winning a belt. It was about proving that all the sacrifices, the struggles, and the years of hard work had been worth it. From a boy in Dagestan who had to take on responsibilities too soon, to the king of the UFC Light Heavyweight division, Ankalaev had completed his journey. As he stood inside the octagon, with the championship belt wrapped around his waist, the emotion was clear on his face. He had made history. But for Ankalaev, this was just the beginning. The new champion had arrived, and the division now belonged to him. What future may hold for him? With the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship wrapped around his waist, Magomed Ankalaev had reached the top of the division. But in the fight game, becoming a champion is only half the battle. Staying a champion is even harder. The light heavyweight division is stacked with dangerous challengers, and now, everyone wanted a shot at the new king. In the post-fight interview, Ankalaev remained humble but confident. He thanked his team, his family, and the people of Dagestan for their support. When asked about his next move, he simply said, "I am ready for anyone. Whoever the UFC puts in front of me, I will fight." The MMA world was already buzzing with speculation. Would he defend his title against former champion Yuri Prochaska? Would he have a rematch with Pereira? Or would a new contender rise to challenge him? One thing was certain. Ankalaev wasn't backing down from anyone. Back in Dagestan, his victory was celebrated like a national event. People gathered in the streets, cheering for their new champion. He had followed in the footsteps of other Dagestani legends like Khabib Nurmagomedov and Islam Makhachev, proving once again that the mountains of Dagestan produce some of the toughest fighters in the world. But for Ankalaev, this was not the end of the journey. It was just the beginning of his reign as champion. He had already overcome every challenge life had thrown at him. Now, as the best light heavyweight in the world, he was ready to build a legacy that would be remembered forever. Magomed Ankalaev, from a young boy in Dagestan to the UFC Light Heavyweight Champion. And this is only the start.